Good morning. Welcome to this Unitarian Universalist Church, which includes our congregations in Birmingham and Tuscaloosa and our folks online. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are today, and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. To all who are here this morning, welcome home.
Okay, yes, thank you. Yay, technology, gotta love it. Okay, please use your connection card to sign up for any upcoming events, to get a name tag. And speaking of name tags, there's a lot of name tags in the narthex on the round table. So if you're expecting one, or you think one might have been printed, a new one for you, check it out and make sure your name tag's not out there. Also, if you need to request any information, and the office staff does read the connection cards every week. Please note that there's a partner potluck after the service on May 12th. The decorating committee invites you to look at the beautiful artwork in the sanctuary, and it's called The Light Within, and the artist is Dariana Dervis. More information about the artist and instructions on how to make a purchase are on the table by those double doors. The fourth annual church retreat at the mountain is from June 6th to June 9th, and the last day to register is May 23rd. Thanks everyone who came yesterday to help with restore the hiking trail. The meditation group is in the children's choir room at 11:30 on Sundays from now on. Join Matthew, Angel, and Thomas today at 11:30 in the vocal room. If you don't want to go to meditation, go to the vocal room. And it's feedback about their Soul Summit, Soul, S-O-U-U-L Summit in Atlanta they attended. And they're gonna discuss how they can incorporate their learnings into our vibrant community. CUPS will be celebrating May Day on May 5th at 11:30. And there'll be a maypole, a bake sale, silent auction, and more. On May 12th at 11:30, in the playground, there is an ice cream social. Please notify the church office by Tuesday, May 14th, if you've had any life achievement, like you earned a degree, or you're graduating, or someone in your family's graduating, so that that can be incorporated into the upcoming bridging ceremony. So that's Tuesday, May 14th. Summer camp is July 15th through the 19th from 9 to 4, and it's for rising first graders to rising seventh graders. Time is running out for SUSE early registration, and SUSE is the Southeast UU Summer Institute, and it's going to be July 21st through the 27th at Radford University in Radford, Virginia. And if you have any questions about SUSE, talk to Thomas Lauer. And we have a few special announcements. Mary Stevenson.
Good morning. I wanted to let y'all know that every year on the first Saturday in May, many thousands of people around the globe celebrate World Labyrinth Day as a moving meditation for world peace and celebration of the Labyrinth experience. Many walk as one by walking 1 p.m. local time to create a rolling wave of peaceful energy passing from one time zone to the next. Oscar and I would like to invite y'all to our home, to our backyard labyrinth next Saturday for a free event. We will have the labyrinth available to you from 11 in the morning until about 3 in the afternoon, and we will serve just light refreshments. If you would like to come, ours is on the ground, made of river rock. If you would like to bring a stone from where you are, or if you have something special you would like to leave in our labyrinth, We would love that. If next Saturday doesn't work for you, see me sometime and we will arrange a special time for you to come and walk. Thank you. These flyers will be on the back table to give you the specifics, and I need you to let me know if you're coming so I'll have enough refreshment.
We have two more.
Hello, I'm Farrah Tatum. This is Heather. Heather's running the auction. I know you just heard the announcement about the auction, but I wanted to talk a tiny bit about it. Reverend Julie, asked me to mention it to you guys. One of the things that CUPS has been doing fundraisers for the last 2 years, this will be our third May Day, is to revise, change, help the steps down to the fire pit. I'm sorry, I'm losing my words. Yeah. This all started a few years ago because we were having a Halloween thing. They were having s'mores down at the fire pit, and my mom wanted to take Piper. So she comes back to me and she says, Farrah, I can't get down there. Looking at those steps, they're dangerous, they're unmanageable, and since I've had a cane, I have a hard time myself. So we're wanting to raise money to fully fund that, to pay for it, to make it better. So, May Day, please come. Do the maypole, do the dance, bid on the silent auction, buy some baked goods. It's gonna be a ball.
And I'll let you know, we already have some really amazing silent auction items. And if you have any you want to donate, please get in touch with me. If you go on the CUPS website or Facebook page or the UU webpage or Facebook page, I'm on there so you can direct message me. Or I think I may be in the church directory now, I'm not sure. Or get in touch with Farrah, and I can pick it up, we'll take care of it. We can even bring it that Sunday if I know what you're bringing. We'll be good.
And we have one more special announcement, Angel Johnson.
Hey everyone, I'm Angel. As mentioned earlier, yesterday we had the cleanup for the hiking trail that goes around the entire perimeter of the property. And I just wanted to let you guys know that approximately a dozen people came out and helped with that project. And because there were so many people that came out and helped and worked really hard, the majority of the trail is cleared and walkable. So I encourage everyone to go out, explore the property around us, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. And thank you so very much to everyone that participated yesterday, everyone that helped share on social media, and everybody that encouraged other people to come out. I appreciate it so much. It could not have been done without your help. Thank you.
The prelude prepares us for worship. Okay, yes, there we go. Please rise in body or spirit for the lighting of the chalice. In the houses of the holy, the world pauses. In the hearts of the holy, love abides. In the havens of the holy, hope comforts. In the hearths of the holy, spirit refreshes. Come then, one and all, gather in. Come then, one and all, gather here. Bring here all of your heart, bring here all of your body, bring here all of your soul. Come then, bring the broken, the vulnerable, the ragged, the outcast, the other. Come then, gather in, come. Come then, one and all, gather in. Come then, gather in. In the spirit of inclusivity, please welcome those around you, especially folks you might not recognize.
Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing number 1014 in your teal hymnal, number 1014.
Good morning, all. I have the pleasure of getting to do our Justice Minute today, and my shirt is a prop. It says, "No more craptions." And on the back, it says, "Caption your videos." So to go along with our, with Farah and Cups, trying to get some more accessibility outside for us, and Matthew speaking today on disability as contextual, I wanted to ask, who here uses social media? Facebook, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, anything like that, even email? How many of you use email to communicate with folks? That counts. So one amazing thing that you may not be aware of is that pretty much all of these great digital things that we have accessibility features. If you post a picture on Instagram, in your caption, you can also include descriptor tags. In YouTube, under the filter section, if you like to watch videos on YouTube, you can search to see if it has auto-generated captions or user-entered captions to know whether or not they're going to be accurate. I like to use YouTube videos in my classroom, and several of my students need the captions to be able to fully understand what is going on in a video. So I have to use that little filter tag, and there are lots of great resources I would love to use, but I can't because the captions are bad, including the fantastic and made for students CNN 10 news program. It's a 10-minute breakdown of news they produce every day, and the captions are craptions. They suck. They can't even spell their own host's name correctly in the captions. It's so bad. So my call to you all today especially if you use any sort of social media or streaming platform. How many of you pay or steal Disney Plus, Video Prime, HBO Max, Netflix, Disney Plus? I really recommend at some point this week you go into the audio and subtitle section and find a show maybe you never watched before, turn on the captions or the subtitles, or if you're able to, turn on audio descriptors. Close your eyes and listen. Audio descriptors not only provide the dialogue in a show, but they also tell you what is happening on screen. Diana moves across and goes towards Travis. Would be spoken. It's great for those with any sort of vision loss. It's great for if you want to watch a show and lay in bed and not look at the TV, or if you have a headache and you want to listen to something. I highly recommend you try out these tools, because the more people who utilize them, the more wildly accessible they are going to become. If you like a popular YouTuber or a popular Instagram or TikTok person and they don't caption their videos, leave a comment. Say, hey, this is not accessible for so many people. I know that I've had to stop watching people that I like on YouTube because they won't caption their videos, and I don't know what they're saying. So that is my call to you all this week, is try out a little bit of that for yourself and see if it benefits you. And if it doesn't, at least you've boosted that number up for those of us that do need it. Thank you so much.
When we share what we carry with us on this day, joy or sorrow. For those of you online, please share yours in our online chat, and remember to hold others by placing parentheses around their name. For those of you in person today, you are now invited to come forward and drop a stone in honor or in memory of what is on your heart today. Please come forward. Today we remember Liz Roddy, who is recovering from COVID at home. We are keeping her in our thoughts and are hoping for her speedy recovery. Today we remember Gil DeCamus, who is suffering from a case of pleurisy and will not be able to see a pulmonologist until June 18th. Oops. And the meditation was not printed. Let us take a moment of silence. Amen and blessed be. And now will the children please come forward for the time for all ages. Nope, I'm gonna do it this time. Because. Good morning, everyone. So today I will be doing the time for all ages. It's a little different, I know, but today I'm going to read you a story called A Head Full of Birds. This is Nanette, a little girl with a head full of birds. Nanette mixes ham into her fruit yogurt. She can sit for hours gazing at a spider's web, even though there's no spider. She rocks back and forth, to and fro, fluttering her fingers like butterflies. At school, the kids are nasty and cruel. Hey you got a brain in that skull, or are you just stupid and dull? But Nanette doesn't listen. She looks down and mutters, skull, dull, seagull. In Annette's class, there's a boy named Noah. One day during the lesson, he tries flying some paper planes. Bad luck, one of them lands at the teacher's feet. Noah is punished. He has to change seats. Sit in the front. Noah sits beside Nanette. He's annoyed. He pushes her out of irritation. Scritch! The sparrow she was drawing is all messed up. Oh, whispers Nanette, he won't fly anymore. But birds and drawings don't fly, says Noah, getting angry. The drawing doesn't fly, the bird does, says Nanette softly. After school, Noah sees Nanette crouching at the edge of the sidewalk. She's dropping some bright little boats into the gutter. They fill the stream with color as they float along. Noah stops, looks at her, and thinks, "That's so pretty." The next day at recess, the rain is pouring down. Nanette walks into the middle of the schoolyard. Then she stands there, not moving, her palms facing the clouds. Noah's friends point at her. She's so stupid. She's so stupid. Noah turns his back on them, and when he sees Nanette taking off her boots to splash in the water, he rushes out to bring her back under the shelter. But Nanette doesn't want to move. Look, she says. She fills her boots with the water streaming off the roof. She hides one under her raincoat and hands the other to Noah. Quick, let's get back to class. Noah struggles to keep up with Nanette as she zigzags her way up the stairs. When Noah gets to the landing, a boy bumps into him. Splash! The boot tips over, and Noah is completely soaked. Watch where you're going, says Noah angrily. Now it's ruined. I'm sorry, Nanette, says Noah, leaving the empty boot under his chair. Don't worry, Nanette says. One's enough. She takes Noah's hand and slips a tightly folded bit of paper into his palm. Noah smiles. Then he leans over Nanette's boot to drop her little gift inside. The boat twists and twirls, dancing merrily across the water, and it's so pretty. This is Nanette, and this is Noah. Nanette is friends with Noah. Noah is friends with Nanette. Together they look after the birds that nest in their heads. The end. Thank you for coming, and now will you all please sing the children out? Each person is worthwhile. Seven, we take care of the earth. That will bring us back to me and you too. Today's reading is an excerpt from Divergent Mind, Thriving in a World That Wasn't Designed for You by Janara Nuremberg. The history of the DSM thus reflects the history of politics and sociocultural dynamics. By the 1960s, the language of neurotransmitters, dopamine, and serotonin took hold. But as Greenberg notes, what seemed never to be in doubt as the doctors rushed from theory to theory was the idea that one brain chemical or another was the cause of mental suffering, just as one bacterium or another must be the cause of infection. There thus arose the pressure to further categorize and itemize every possible disorder and its criteria. As Greenberg notes, the third iteration of the DSM-3, which came out in 1980, nearly doubled the number of mental disorders, and vastly expanded the manual scope, turning it into an entirely new psychopathology of everyday life. It was actually a bestseller and garnered the American Psychiatric Association an extensive amount of money. Its success was largely due to seemingly highly scientific categorizations of so-called mental disorders. But those categorizations are fluid and changeable. From slave drapetomania in the 1850s, the mental illness that caused slaves to try to escape slavery, to homosexuality in the 1950s, to today's internet use disorder. The DSM is more like a catalog of current social ailments than scientific hardwired diseases. In Women and Madness, Phyllis Chesler writes of what she calls psychiatric imperialism, whereby normal responses to trauma are methodically pathologized in science and medicine. At the time of the book's publication in 1972, few women were coming forward about gender biases in the study and practice of psychology. Chesler felt compelled to bring forward a conversation around gender, race, class, and medical ethics, because modern female psychology reflects a relatively powerless and deprived condition. Of sensitivity, she writes, quote, "Many intrinsically valuable female traits, such as intuitiveness or compassion, have probably been developed through default or patriarchal imposed necessity, rather than through either biological predisposition or free choice. Female emotional talents must be viewed in terms of the overall price exacted by sexism. Regardless of causation, of note here is that women's internal lives were barely acknowledged or considered. A 1984 questionnaire from the National Institute of Mental Health indicated that close to 1/3 of Americans would experience mental illness during their lifetimes, and more than 20% of Americans reported symptoms that would land them a diagnosis based on the DSM. Given such numbers, Greenberg notes that, quote, "Our inner lives are too important to leave in the hands of doctors, because they don't know as much about us as they claim, because a full account of human nature is beyond their ken. In the later half of the 1980s, for example, ADHD became a hot topic and popular diagnosis, and a strand of kids caught the attention of a doctor named Joseph Beardman at Massachusetts General Hospital. These kids were precocious and prone to tantrums and extreme sadness. Biederman sensed that perhaps the onset of bipolar disorder was much earlier than previously thought, and that these kids might be showing early warning signs of it. Features of ADHD and bipolar disorder in the DSM overlapped, but these kids didn't have the manic episodes characteristic of bipolar. The layers of criteria and nuanced symptoms listed in the DSM that are designed to differentiate one diagnosis from the next are fluid and relative, contributing to what Greenberg calls ad hoc diagnosing. Throughout the early 2000s, Beardman's newfound focus on childhood bipolar disorder resulted in a surge of medications being prescribed to children. According to Greenberg, the diagnosis of bipolar disorder among children in 2003 had increased by 40-fold over the previous decade. By 2005, antipsychotic drug use in kids increased 73% in just 4 years. In 2007, 500,000 kids were on drugs that previously had been reserved for extreme cases. This is an example of the consequence of arbitrary language and ad hoc diagnosing. The history of psychiatry and the DSM is plagued with this pattern of inconsistency and drama. It can truly be known if the information is constantly changing, and how people can feel confident and safe with such unsteady fits and turns in the medical industry. The DSM, thus, could be seen not as a final scientific document, but rather as an ethnographic study, an account of how human beings are responding to the state and conditions of the world. In some eras, conditions related to slavery and homosexuality have featured more prominently. In others, depression and anxiety have dominated. As the DSM evolves, we are likely to see more conditions or disorders related to what is happening in the natural world, given the changes in land and ecosystems due to climate change and global warming. Ecopsychology is already a budding field. If psychological framing is situational and contextual, what's certain is that the medical and psychiatric treatment of those who operate differently from a perceived norm tells a story of discrimination and pathologization. Greenberg asks, if the people who write the DSM don't know which forms of suffering belong in it and can't say why, then on what grounds can the next instance in which prejudice and oppression are cloaked in the doctor's white coat be recognized? History, language, context, and power are deep determinants of who gets framed as normal or wrong. Sensitivity and sensitive women in particular have been no exception. The history of language within medicine and science has corrupted our notion and felt sense of what it means to be sensitive, and thereby pathologized sensitivity and created an epidemic of shame among some of humanity's most gifted individuals. Let the re-education begin. Here ends the reading. So growing up in elementary school, I knew I was different from other kids, but it wasn't always clear to me why I was different. Why could the other kids remember to do their homework and bring their backpacks to school, but I seemed to forget simple things like these all the time? Also, why did I tend to have obsessive interests that I seemed to talk about exclusively while none of the other kids did this? And why did I get bullied for talking exclusively about my interests? For me, the big obsession at the time was aliens. I read books about UFO conspiracies, went with my parents to Roswell, New Mexico UFO Festival, learned about UFO abduction cases, read fictional works about aliens, watched movies about aliens, and even had an imaginary alien friend from Saturn named Jimmy. Why didn't kids at school want to hear me talk about the Roswell incident of 1947? Then there was my incredible struggle as a high school freshman. Why could other kids seem to manage their time so well while I would stay up until 3 in the morning getting my homework done and still not be finished? And why couldn't I do something as simple as remember my uniform on picture day so as not to disappoint my coach and get looks of disapproval from my other teammates? And why was I always getting in trouble for losing things or not getting stuff done that I was supposed to? And why was my room always such a mess? And why could I never seem to connect well with other people unless we were talking about my favorite subjects like philosophy and religion? And why? and why and why, and what on earth was wrong with me? These are the questions I often wondered about as a kid without realizing that these were all traits I had that were related to disability. Yes, I had heard of ADHD, but I only knew the stereotypes put on ADHD by the parents who excused their children's bullying of me as a symptom of their child's ADHD. I thought of ADHD as the mean disease, and surely I wasn't mean. And yes, I had heard of autism before, but not realizing that autism was a spectrum, it never even occurred to me that it could possibly describe me. It was only in high school that I suspected I had ADHD as I began to educate myself and realize that ADHD is not just the mean disease or some kind of bully syndrome, but something characterized by difficulty remembering things, paying attention, remembering details, and all those things I had struggled with as a young child and was now struggling with as a teen struggling to adjust to high school. That being said, my notions of what it meant to have ADHD were still somewhat ableist. I thought of my ADHD as an obstacle to be overcome and thought of my successes as stories of overcoming my problem and my failures as failures to overcome my problem. I imagined myself eventually speaking on how I managed to become successful through my overcoming of ADHD, as if ADHD were some kind of flaw to be managed rather than a beautiful and necessary part of my personality. Only recently have I come to suspect that I may very well be on the autism spectrum as well. As mentioned previously, I have always had very specific obsessions. In elementary school, my big obsession was aliens. In middle school, I stopped being so fascinated with aliens and UFOs and became more interested in religion, a fascination that has stayed with me until today. In high school and college, philosophy also became a big fascination of mine along with religion. And today, my major fixations are religion and near-death experiences. While having strong fixations by itself doesn't automatically mean that a person has autism, I have noticed other signs as well. Social interaction, at least the kind of normal social interaction society expects of individuals, has always been a struggle for me. When I was little, I was highly extroverted and talkative, but I would talk almost exclusively about aliens. Other kids, and even some adults, thought I was weird because of this. Other kids would pick on me, and adults sometimes expressed concern about my odd obsession. Eventually, I learned to keep the alien talk to myself. When I started becoming fascinated with religion and philosophy, I wanted to share everything I knew about my interest with others as well. Unfortunately, however, I quickly learned that some people saw that as odd too. Because of this, I eventually learned to keep my obsessions and knowledge to myself and keep my interests private. The downside to doing this was that I frequently found that I was never sure quite what to talk about, and sometimes had trouble keeping a conversation going. Small talk was never my cup of tea, and there would be a lot of pauses in conversations because I was just never quite sure what to say next. I had learned not to info dump anymore, but now I wasn't sure how to keep a quote-unquote normal conversation going. To this day, I sometimes struggle to know what to say in a conversation that doesn't relate to religion or near-death experiences. And I am now an introvert because I am afraid of info dumping on people intentionally or unintentionally and facing rejection. To be honest, I have no diagnosis of autism and am not 100% sure that I have it. But what I do know is that something feels different. And if it's not autism, it may very well be related to my ADHD or some other form of neurodivergence. Whatever it is, however, I am still confronting my own internalized ableism at times. Well, I probably need to be careful about info dumping too much and scaring people away by saying things like, "Hi, I'm Matthew. Did you know that 9 to 18% of cardiac arrest patients have a deeply transforming spiritual experience during their cardiac arrests?" Or, "Hi, I'm Matthew. Did you know that the Eucharist has elements of both Greco-Roman mystery cults and the Jewish celebration of Passover in it?" Perhaps it is healthy to occasionally share my interests with others, with their consent, of course, instead of masking all the time and feeling ashamed or embarrassed about my special interests and remaining quiet most of the time. In today's reading, author Janara Nuremberg argues persuasively that the DSM, the manual used for diagnosing mental disorders, is not merely an objective study of the biological makeup of the human brain. Instead, the so-called disorders named within it, including neurodiverse traits such as ADHD and the autism spectrum, are determined by a mixture of traits inherent within the biology of the human brain and the context within the person resides. Slave drapetomania and homosexuality were only considered disorders in a world in which slaves trying to escape was considered a problem, and in which gay identity was considered a moral failure. In the same way, neurodiverse traits like ADHD are only seen as a problem in a monochronic cultural context in which this assignment has to be done on this specific date by this specific time, and frankly also in a culture where wallets, keys, purses, and phones are considered essential items to keep track of. Likewise, the autism spectrum is only considered a problem in a context where having a narrow set of personal interests and being unable to read between the lines socially, rather than being told things explicitly, is considered a problem. Using Nuremberg's framework, I am coming to see that my own neurodivergent traits are qualities to be embraced, rather than problematic traits to be overcome. My ADHD, for instance, is not merely a deficit of attention, as the name suggests. Rather, it is a difficulty in regulating what I pay attention to at what times. As Nuremberg notes in another chapter not read this morning, quote, "People with ADHD often have too much attention, just not at the socially acceptable times or situations found in our highly regimented and structured societies. At times, my ability to hyperfocus has led me to incredible insights in both scientific and spiritual knowledge, particularly when I am learning about or researching one of my special interests. With just a little bit of planning, I could easily give a 2-hour lecture on the science of near-death experiences, or the teachings of the major world religions, and what insights these phenomena can give us into how we live our lives. Now, sure, I may have to come up with ways to function in our society, which has deadlines to meet, places to be at certain times, and conversations I need to be fully present in without zoning out. But having ADHD is also a gift that our larger society takes for granted that has allowed me to become an expert in the fields that my attention is naturally drawn toward. Likewise, if it is the case that I am on the autism spectrum, there is much beauty to be embraced there as well. I have never been one to enjoy mundane conversations about the weather, clothing, or what a person ate for breakfast this morning. I do sometimes talk about these things to be polite or even to mask my neurodivergent traits, but I really like to get right into the juicy stuff. How do we find our purpose in life? How do we define God if we use God language at all? What happens when we pass away? How do we live in harmony with the interdependent web of existence? What do near-death experiences say about these questions? What do different religions say about these questions? That's what I like to talk about. See, I believe that my deep thinkerness is in part due to my neurodivergence, and what a gift that is. These disabilities are not merely challenges to be overcome. They are part of who I am and are qualities that can be embraced as they are. To be inclusive of people like me, perhaps I do not need to change who I am. Perhaps it is the context that needs to change its expectations of what it means to live a human life. Now here comes the real challenge. What if we embraced all disabilities in this way and began seeing them not as problems to be overcome, but as a quality to be embraced just as it is? Again, as Nuremberg emphasizes in her book, neurodivergence is only a disorder because of the context in which it arises. Might the same be true of all disabilities? Might it be the case that many disabilities are only disabilities because they are not accommodated in the larger society? Let's use this pulpit as an example. The pulpit I am preaching from at this very moment is not accessible to people in wheelchairs. Someone who uses a wheelchair would be unable to share the authority, privilege, and responsibility of this pulpit, not because their disability inherently excludes them from preaching, but because we have built this pulpit with certain ideas about what normal mobility looks like. But the reality is, we need a new pulpit. The same is true of the fire pit outside. Currently, it is not accessible to people who use wheelchairs. Again, it is not that using a wheelchair inherently keeps someone from accessing fire pits. Instead, the problem is that we built the fire pit with only certain people in mind. Thankfully, however, CUPS is taking action to address the problem, and you can help by contributing to their fundraiser to raise money to make it more accessible. Sometimes barriers to participating fully in community with others manifest in the language we use. This morning we sang a hymn, "Standing on the Side of Love." Some of us may or may not have thought about it, but the language of standing on the side of something is actually ableist and prevents people with physical disabilities from feeling like they are being included in the song lyrics. Could we maybe change the song lyrics in some way to be more inclusive of those who are not able to physically stand? You see, the real problem is not disability in and of itself, but the context in which it occurs that creates the barriers. Yet we can do things to overcome and challenge those barriers. When we begin to view disability not as a problem to be overcome, but a difference to be embraced and accommodated, we restore ourselves back to the web of human community. When we view neurodivergence not as an illness to be overcome, but as a human difference to be embraced, we will be restored to this web. When we begin to view physical disability not as a problem or something to be pitied, but a human difference to be embraced, we will be restored to this web. What ways can we rethink and reshape our understanding of disabilities in ways that move from problem to difference, which has less of an evaluative stance that frames disability as something negative to be overcome? We have a long way to go before this reframing in our hearts and minds can fully occur. This includes those of us who have disabilities. As mentioned earlier, I am still reframing my own understanding of my own disabilities. And honestly, it is a struggle not to be ableist because of the messages I have received throughout my life that my differences were unacceptable. Yet we can begin to take steps right now to reframe disability as a problem only in a context where whatever is not disability is set as the norm, so that we can challenge those norms and be inclusive to everyone. This journey will be long and rough, but through a radical shift in our consciousness, it can and will occur. As the lyrics to a hymn that we will sing in just a few moments state, we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. May it be so. Amen.
Hello, good morning. I'm Diane Tucker, a member of the board. Our church is supported by those who call our church home and by those who support our efforts to change the world for the better. If this is your first time with us, please pass the plate. We're just glad you're here. We share our cash plate every Sunday with organizations whose work reflects UU values to care for marginalized persons, advocate for real and systemic change, defend our environment, and promote justice and equity for all. Our Share the Plate partner for this month is GASP, the Greater Birmingham Alliance to Stop Pollution. Their mission is to advance healthy air and environmental justice. We appreciate your donations, either by placing them in the plate, by mailing your donation to the church, or by using PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle. More information about how to do this is found in the order of service. Thank you for your generous support of our church and our Share the Plate partner. May we give in love and in hope.
Please rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn, and then be seated for the extinguishing the chalice and the postlude. Closing hymn is 1020 in the Teal hymn book. 1020.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
You can take a seat for the closing, for the extinguishing the chalice and the postlude. We have a calling in this world. We are called to honor diversity, to respect differences with dignity, and to challenge those who would forbid it. We are people of a wide path. Let us be wide in affection, not infection, affection, and go in peace.